Ice-covered bodies of water. Stay off or prepare to go through. Did you know there are approximately 60,000 active snowmobiles in Newfoundland and Labrador? Did you know Newfoundland and Labrador has the highest rate per capita of snowmobile-related drownings in Canada? Did you know 80% of these deaths involve alcohol? It's a sobering thought. Snowmobiling in Newfoundland and Labrador is very different from other areas in Canada. In Newfoundland and Labrador, snowmobiles are not just used for recreation. They're an important means of transportation for people, food, and supplies. Both inland and ocean waters are used, as they often provide ideal frozen surfaces for snowmobiling. For some, it's the only means of transportation during the winter months. Our province has a vast expanse of wilderness with an abundance of lakes, ponds, and rivers, including saltwater bays and harbors. Combine these facts with 60,000 active snowmobiles, crossing a frozen body of water becomes a daily occurrence. If you're not prepared, it could be fatal. The Sled Smart program was developed by the Life Saving Society in Newfoundland and Labrador. The Life Saving Society is a national, non-profit, volunteer-based charity dedicated to saving lives through drowning prevention. The Society believes that through education and training, many snowmobile-related drownings can be avoided. On-site training seminars and discussions take place throughout Newfoundland and Labrador as part of an ongoing education program for the general public. The Sled Smart program provides valuable information and safety techniques for all those that take part. Ice conditions can change considerably, no matter where you go. In fact, the ice on any frozen body of water is never uniform. Ice thickness can vary greatly from one area to the next. Here are some key points you should know. Clear water will freeze before dirty water. Fresh water will freeze before salt water. Vegetation under the ice will make it weak. Changes in temperature will cause poor layers of ice. Snow is particularly dangerous because it can hide weak ice. There are three types of ice snowmobilers should be aware of: ocean ice, river or stream ice, and lake or pond ice. Each type has its own particular dangers. Rising and falling tides, currents, and wind make ocean ice very unpredictable. This type of ice is moving all the time, creating pressure ridges, cracks, and open holes. Pressure ridges are formed when two large ice masses are forced together. The ridge itself and the surrounding ice is very unstable, and you should avoid these areas at all times. Forces of nature, such as wind and tide, are constantly moving ice. Cracks and open holes occur where the ice is weakest. After a heavy snowfall, Cracks and holes can be hidden from view, a potential trap for the careless snowmobiler, especially when visibility is poor. Aquaculture is fast becoming the bread and butter of many displaced fishery workers. As a result, many small inlets and bays have new man-made obstructions that are dangerous for snowmobilers. One type of aquaculture is shown here. These barrels are used to raise mussels, and as you can see, they can be quite plentiful. There are two main reasons to stay away from aquaculture areas. Ice remains weak around these obstructions, with tides constantly rising and falling. In addition, collisions with man-made obstructions are a very real possibility, especially when visibility is poor or you're traveling at night. Wharves and docks also pose collision dangers, but the greatest danger around a wharf is weak ice, and sometimes there's no ice at all. Snowmobilers should keep their distance. Many harbors and bays throughout our province have year-round shipping. Ships are continually forming channels and breaking ice. In poor visibility, the unsuspecting snowmobiler can make fatal mistakes when traveling in areas such as this. Another problem area for ocean ice is where rivers run into the sea. These areas are known as inflows. Ice will seldom form in these conditions. The water is constantly moving. Many drownings have occurred in areas such as this. Victims don't have a chance. The currents could sweep them under the ice. Unlike ice formed over salt water, freshwater ice is generally stronger. There are, however, certain dangers you must be aware of. The biggest problem with frozen lakes and ponds are inflows and outflows. In areas like this, water is constantly moving and ice almost never forms. Inflows are particularly dangerous because the water flow tends to follow the edge of the pond along the shore. As a result, approaching a pond next to an inflow can be a fatal mistake. Hot springs in lakes and ponds also cause weak ice or no ice at all. At night, or in conditions of poor visibility, a snowmobiler can easily drive off the ice edge into these areas of open water. Remember, if visibility is poor, stay off the ice. Ice formed over streams and rivers is always unsafe. Where there is moving water, ice tends to be much thinner. This type of ice can crack open and move any time during the winter. What may look safe now can change dramatically within days, hours, or even minutes. A snowmobiler would be wise to avoid these areas.
Police are searching today for the body of a 27-year-old male believed to have gone through the ice.
Police are warning residents of the Bay of Islands area to stay off the Bay ice.
Bodies from a weekend snowmobile drowning have been recovered.
Search is continuing for the bodies of a 29-year-old male and a 25-year-old female.
Labrador
believed to
City
have
police
gone
are
through
still
the ice
investigating
on
the
snow.
collision between a snowmobile and train, which resulted in one fatality. The accident happened Friday night. It was snowing at the
Continuing into
time.
the collision of two snowmobiles near the Ocean Pond area. Alcohol is believed to be involved.
It doesn't matter where you live in Newfoundland or Labrador, at some point in time you've heard of or know of someone that was killed in a snowmobile-related accident. Careless and reckless use of snowmobiles are a major problem. Every year, someone takes a chance, and someone pays for it with their life. Think of the consequences. Is your life worth the risk? When you decide to cross an ice surface, there are some precautions which you can take in case you fall through the ice. Going through the ice is a terrifying experience. Being prepared is your only chance for survival. Wear a buoyant snowmobile suit. These suits are your best defense against drowning. They also help retain body heat. If you don't have access to a buoyant snowmobile suit, a personal flotation device will do, but remember, it will not help retain body heat as well as a full snowmobile flotation suit. Carry a set of ice picks. These small tools provide the grip you need to get back on the ice. 10 to 20 feet of rope is always a good idea. It can be used for towing or as a rescue line. Also, if you have a backpack or survival kit, remove it from the snowmobile and place it on your body. If you leave it on the machine and you go through the ice, your backpack or kit is lost. Last but not least, check the ice thickness. Generally speaking, new, clean ice, which has not been interrupted by thawing or precipitation, should be a minimum of 5 inches thick to allow safe snowmobiling. 5 inches is the approximate length of an average pen or marker. You should check the ice in at least 3 different places along your route, because ice thickness is never uniform. Never travel on an ice surface alone. Always travel with a buddy. The second machine should travel behind and slightly to one side of the leader, approximately 30 to 40 feet apart. This distance would give the second snowmobile time to stop if the leader went through the ice. Remember to reduce your speed. Snow-covered ice surfaces often develop slush. This condition doesn't necessarily mean the ice is weak, but it does have its own particular danger. Being stuck in slush is no picnic. When the track is buried, the machine becomes 3 to 4 times heavier. One person cannot move it. Without a buddy, you're in big trouble, especially when you're in the middle of nowhere. Remember, if your machine is left in the slush too long, it could freeze into the ice. Your best defense is to avoid slush when possible. If you choose to cross an ice-covered body of water and have taken all the safety precautions, there's still a chance that you may go through the ice. If you do, then you need to know how to rescue yourself. The number one rule is don't panic. Stay calm. Face the direction you came from when you broke through the ice. This is most likely where the strongest ice will be. Reach as far out onto the ice as you can and kick your feet vigorously. If the ice still doesn't hold you, keep breaking it away until you find ice that is strong enough. Using outstretched arms and kicking feet, you should be able to pull yourself out onto the ice. Don't stand up, roll, or crawl to safety. In this case, the victim was wearing a buoyant snowmobile suit. It is always easier to pull yourself out of trouble when you're wearing flotation. Ice picks are a very helpful tool that enable you to get a better grip on the ice surface. They come in a variety of different shapes and sizes. The homemade version works just as well as a store-bought one. Using a hard hammer-like motion, the picks are driven into the ice, and as you pull yourself out, you must again kick vigorously with your feet. Once you are out onto the ice, roll or crawl away to safety. Never stand up unless you're sure the ice is safe. There may be an occasion where you could find someone that has fallen through. In this instance, there are a couple of important rules to follow. Don't panic, stay calm, and never go on the ice where a person has fallen through. In this situation, a rope is a valuable asset to your survival kit. Make sure you are in a safe area before you throw. When you make the throw, don't throw the rope at the victim. Throw it directly over their head. This enables the victim to grab the rope easily without getting tangled in it. As you pull the victim to safety, tell them to kick their feet and stay low on the ice.
Stay down low. All right, crawl.
Once out of the water, the victim should roll or crawl away to safety.
Go.
If a rope is not available, then a long, skinny tree or branch will do just fine. Just remember, you may need an axe to get one.
Okay, stay calm. I'm going to reach you with this.
Using the tree or branch, reach out as far as you can without putting yourself in danger.
Stay calm. Okay, grab hold.
Once the victim has grabbed on, pull them to safety. Again, remember to stay low, crawl, or roll.
Okay, stay low. Ice is thin.
Never try to grab the victim yourself. You could end up in the water. Remember this rule of thumb. Reach, throw, but don't go.
Hey, how you feeling?
Sometimes just getting someone out of the ice is not enough. Because their body was subjected to very cold temperatures, hypothermia could be a very real possibility. Hypothermia is when the body is losing heat faster than it can produce it. Anyone suffering from this affliction must be handled gently and carefully. Here are a few key points to remember. Get all wet clothes off the victim and replace with dry clothes. If dry clothes are not available, then create a vapor barrier around the victim by sealing the wet clothes from the air. An emergency blanket or plastic, like a garbage bag, will work fine. If possible, and if there is a shelter very nearby, the victim could be transported to that shelter. Never transport a hypothermia victim over a long distance. You could be doing more harm than good. If a shelter is not available, then you must be ready to provide one for the victim. A simple lean-to with a small fire and a survival blanket will do just fine. If the victim was given dry clothes, then the survival blanket should be used as a reflector, not as a wraparound blanket. One important thing to remember about hypothermia is that the victim should never be warmed up quickly. Slow and even heat works best. In this situation, the importance of having a well-stocked survival kit can be easily seen. The survival kit should include some of the following: waterproof matches, survival blanket, rope, a whistle, food rations, dry clothes, compass, and maps. In case of mechanical trouble, some spare parts for your snowmobile would be a very good idea. But remember, a survival kit is meant for people. Spare parts and tools should be left on your machine, not in your survival kit. Did you know that 90% of all winter drownings are caused by hypothermia? There are many other dangers to snowmobilers other than ice. Careless use of snowmobiles around roadways have also taken its toll. Snowmobile operators must respect and obey the rules regarding the use of snowmobiles near or on roadways. The only time you are allowed on a road is to cross it. Always come to a complete stop and look in both directions before proceeding. Always cross a road at a 90-degree angle, and never use a road as a snowmobile trail. Transmission lines also pose a danger to snowmobilers. These steel guide wires are very difficult to see in poor visibility. Travel cautiously and reduce your speed whenever you ride in areas such as this. Trains are another very real threat to snowmobiler safety. In our province, this concern only applies to Labrador West. Trains owned by the Iron Ore Company of Canada, IOC, run daily through this area. Remember, never ride between the rails. You may have difficulty getting off the tracks quickly.
safety message from the Iron Ore Company of Canada.
In Newfoundland, 80% of snowmobile-related drownings involve alcohol. This is 50% higher than the national average. Snowmobile operators must be aware that alcohol will severely impair their judgment when riding a snowmobile. Reaction time is slower, vision can be blurred, and the feeling that nothing can hurt you will surely lead you into trouble. The RCMP and the Royal Newfoundland Constabulary strictly enforce laws that deal with drunk drivers.
How are you today? I noticed I don't see any registration on the machine.
No, it's a new machine.
All right, so you're just waiting on the registration to arrive. Okay.
We stopped into a couple of buddies there.
You haven't been drinking
No,
at all?
sir.
We had some time.
So I'm going to write you a warning ticket. It'll only take a couple minutes and you can be back on your way. Okay.
Operating a vehicle or snowmobile while under the influence of alcohol is against the law and will result in severe penalties. Drunks make a bad name for everyone that enjoys snowmobiling.
We have reasonable probable grounds to believe you're operating a motorized vehicle or possibly under the influence of alcohol.
Being drunk on a sled must be made socially unacceptable. Remember, driving any motorized vehicle while impaired is a crime.
Yeah, between the two. Just right along the edge there.
For an officer, there is nothing worse than having to retrieve the body of a snowmobiler.
Okay, get the body back
Well,
for us, please.
maybe there is one thing: telling the family. Newfoundland and Labrador is one of the best places to enjoy the sport of snowmobiling. With safety in mind for yourself and others, you're well on the way to becoming a responsible driver. Know your abilities, know your machine, and know the ice conditions. Always remember, when it comes to ice-covered bodies of water, stay off or prepare to go through.